You feel the subtle drag, don't you? That silent resistance, an invisible current pulling against every intention, every ambition you declare. You chart a course, meticulously plan the ascent, yet find yourself perpetually caught in a quiet eddy, churning in place, or even subtly pulled backward. It is the gnawing sense that relentless effort, the kind that should shatter any barrier, is instead met with an equal opposing force, leaving you perpetually just short of the declared summit. This isn't just fleeting frustration. It's a pervasive fatigue, a recognition that some unseen opponent has subtly undermined every attempt to truly rise. But what if this opponent isn't external, nor a flaw within your own being, but something far more insidious, operating from within the very architecture you inhabit? The default human response to this persistent, unseen friction is often a familiar one: double down. You reach for more willpower, more discipline, convinced that a deeper personal failing must be the root. We are conditioned to believe that sheer force of will is the ultimate lever, the master key to unlocking any reality. And so, when the struggle continues, when the effort yields disproportionately low returns, we interpret it as a personal failing, a lack of grit, a fundamental inadequacy in our own resolve. This narrative, this old code, compels us to push harder, to grit our teeth, to believe that any faltering is a direct indictment of our inherent strength. But this instinct, this tireless push, is a whisper from an outdated paradigm, one that no longer addresses the foundational truth of your unfolding reality. Let us dismiss the illusion that this persistent drag is a moral failing or a deficiency in your spirit. The exhaustion you feel is not a weakness of will. It is the natural consequence of applying a tactical patch to an architectural flaw. Willpower, though potent in its moments, is a finite resource, a temporary override designed for emergencies, not for the ceaseless navigation of your primary operating system. To rely solely on it for sustained transformation is akin to endlessly patching a leaky roof while the very foundations of the structure are eroding beneath you. The deeper issue, the true resistance, isn't a lack of your personal try harder energy, but an unacknowledged architectural law, a universal principle that governs the very timelines available to you. It operates at a frequency beyond mere grit. This is the immutable law, an architectural edict you were always meant to comprehend. You do not and cannot permanently rise to the level of your goals. Instead, you inexorably fall to the unyielding standard of your chosen container. Willpower is indeed a mere patch, a temporary surge that can briefly defy the gravity of your surroundings. But your environment, in its silent, pervasive authority, is the foundational infrastructure. It is the true operating system, constantly dictating your default state, predetermining your energetic baseline, and silently limiting the very potential you believe is yours to command. This is the subtle head fake. You believe the fight was internal, but the true battleground has always been the frame, the vessel, the architecture you inhabit. This is the silent command center of your unfolding reality, ceaselessly issuing its decrees. What we often interpret as external resistance or even fate is merely the unexamined environment running its default program. This container, your physical space, the frequency of your information diet, the energetic signature of your social proximity, these are not neutral backdrops against which your heroic efforts unfold. This is the crucial distinction you must absorb. They are active transmitters. They do not merely house your ambition. They are continually broadcasting, sculpting your internal landscape, and predetermining the available realities you perceive as possible. Your very consciousness is an antenna, constantly tuning itself to the loudest, most persistent signals emanating from your chosen domain, and then manifesting their resonance. And until this underlying code is rewritten, every attempt to override it with pure will remains a temporary, exhausting gesture. The illusion of separation between you and the universe you believe is happening until you shatters when you grasp this fundamental truth. Your physical space, with its textures, its light, its energetic resonance, is not inert. It is a profound co-creator, constantly whispering narratives into your subconscious. The information you consume, the data streams you allow to permeate your attention, are not benign distractions. They are active architects, constructing the very framework of your perceived reality. And the energetic signature of your social proximity, the resonance of the beings you allow into your sovereign orbit. These are not merely companions. They are continuous broadcasters, establishing the parameters of your emotional and intellectual bandwidth. This constant frequency, invisible yet absolute, is what truly determines the landscape of your internal world. These are the subtle energetic signatures, the subliminal cues that bombard your sensory architecture, creating the very boundaries of your felt reality. Consider the unspoken rules embedded in your daily physical domain, the unconscious biases instilled by your information diet, the vibrational ceiling imposed by your closest associations. They are the architects of your predetermined realities. They quietly, relentlessly set the boundaries of what feels possible, what feels inevitable, what feels within reach, and what remains forever beyond the veil of your current comprehension. They are the silent shapers, dictating the very contours of your internal and external experience, often before a conscious thought can even form, preempting your will before it even has a chance to assert itself. In this accelerating epoch, where external systems update daily, where the pace of information and transformation is exponential, relying on a patched internal operating system within a misaligned, unexamined environment is no longer merely unproductive. It is an act of profound self-sabotage, widening the chasm between the reality you currently inhabit and the sovereign timeline you are destined to architect. The old frameworks are collapsing, and those who fail to recognize the environment as the ultimate lever will find themselves increasingly outmaneuvered, outpaced, and out of alignment with their true potential. The stakes are no longer just personal convenience. They are existential, defining the very trajectory of your unfolding future, demanding an upgrade to your foundational awareness. True sovereignty, then, is not found in the endless push against an invisible current. It is claimed through the deliberate, conscious construction of your environmental architecture. The system architect understands that the most profound leverage, the ultimate act of self-authorship, lies not in fighting the current, but in meticulously designing the channel through which your desired reality can naturally generate itself, unimpeded. This is the upgrade to your internal OS, providing the system mastery required to achieve time sovereignty and to build a legacy beyond the current grid. This is not a suggestion for improvement. It is an imperative for evolution, a mandate to reclaim the very ground upon which your legacy will be built. Now, in this critical evolutionary moment, fighting the current, but in designing the channel itself. For it is here, in the overlooked architecture of your proximal reality, that the constant broadcast truly begins. Your physical space, the very air you breathe within your chosen container, is not merely a backdrop. It is an active transmitter, an amplifier of frequency. Your information diet, the streams of thought you permit into your neural pathways, are not neutral data points. They are carefully selected energetic signatures, continually sculpting your internal landscape. And the energetic signature of your social proximity, the resonance of those you choose to hold close, is not an ambient hum, but a direct predetermination of your available realities. These are the unseen mechanisms, always on, always transmitting, always pulling, always defining the parameters of what is possible, what is felt, what is drawn into your experience. This is why the persistent effort, the endless push, feels so often like bailing water from a vessel with 1,000 unseen leaks. You are not fighting merely for a desired outcome. You are contending with a foundational system that is perpetually broadcasting a default state, a predetermined trajectory unless consciously re-architected. The frequencies emitted by your surroundings, the subtle hum of disorder, the chaotic pulse of uncurated information, the discordant resonance of misaligned connections. These become the internal programming, the very operating system of your soul. They are the unseen hands on the dials of your perception, twisting reality into forms you often recognize only as a vague unease, a constant, low-level resistance. Your timeline is not collapsing from external forces. It is being meticulously sculpted by the unacknowledged transmitters you permit to operate around you, and often within you. This revelation brings with it an evolutionary imperative, a stark clarity for this accelerating moment. External systems are updating daily. The world itself is re-architecting at an exponential pace. To rely on a patched internal OS, a series of fixes and hacks for the self, while residing within a misaligned environment, is no longer merely unproductive. It is in this epoch an act of self-sabotage so profound it widens the chasm between where you are and the sovereign reality you are meant to inhabit. This isn't a problem for tomorrow's contemplation. It is why the drag you feel is escalating enough. The luxury of passive observation, of allowing the world to happen to you, has evaporated. The system is demanding an upgrade, not just of your internal state, but of the very container of your being. The old paradigm, the relentless striving against an invisible tide, served its purpose in a different era. But in this moment of heightened energetic flux, it becomes a direct impediment to your ascension. The energy you expend fighting, pushing, trying to will your way into a new reality is precisely the energy that could be channeled into architecting that reality. To ignore the environment's broadcast is to remain tethered to an outdated frequency, ensuring that the desired future remains perpetually out of reach, a shimmering mirage on the horizon. This is why you feel a persistent fatigue, a sense that your greatest efforts yield disproportionately small returns. It is not your will that is faltering, but the foundational infrastructure upon which your will attempts to operate, actively outmaneuvering every conscious choice you make. The true locus of power, then, shifts from endless effort to deliberate design. Sovereignty is not an act of perpetual push. It is an act of conscious, intentional architecture. The system architect understands that the most profound leverage, the ultimate act of self-authorship, lies not in battling the current, but in designing the channel through which all currents flow. It is the recognition that the outer world, in its deepest truth, is a mirror. And by meticulously crafting the reflection, the interior landscape, one inevitably reshapes the very nature of what is reflected back. This is the upgrade, the fundamental shift in operational protocol, from reactive struggle to proactive creation, from being a participant in a default script to becoming the unyielding author of your own. This is where the unseen drag is finally released, replaced by the effortless flow of alignment. To become this architect is to undertake the deliberate, conscious construction of your environmental signature. It means curating your physical space with the reverence of a master builder, understanding that every object, every line, every texture is a note in a symphony that either elevates or diminishes your frequency. It means designing your information diet as a sovereign, recognizing that every input is a vibrational seed planted within your consciousness, yielding either fertile ground or barren resistance. It means selecting your social proximity with the discernment of an alchemist, knowing that the energetic resonance of those around you is either a catalyst for expansion or an anchor to the familiar, to the past. This is not about external control. It is about internal congruence, forging an environment that naturally generates the reality you are intended to embody. To master the architecture of your environment is to reclaim true time sovereignty. It frees the vast reservoir of energy currently consumed by resistance, by the unconscious fight against an unseen current, allowing it to be consciously directed. This liberated energy becomes the fuel for building the legacy you came here to manifest, for constructing a reality that transcends the limitations of the current grid entirely. This is not merely an option. It is an imperative. The next layer of your evolution, the deepest expression of your sovereign self, awaits. It awaits your conscious intention, your deliberate design. The blueprints are within you. The materials are around you. It is time, system architect, to begin the build. To know yourself, not as a product of circumstance, but as the master weaver of your very existence. This knowing, this framework, is the key you now hold. Will you deploy it?